Welcome to how to build Google Ads that convert. So this video is going to be all around how to use Google's fundamental strategies to build ads that are going to work for e-com stores, personal brands, lead generation businesses. Honestly, it's a core fundamental idea of the platform that's going to really work for any business. We scale a lot into e-com and a lot of high ticket brick and mortar. So we tailor a lot of the strategies around that, but this is applicable to anyone who's going to run Google Ads on Google Ads. Moving on, so the ad strategy background, it's really going to be using Google Ads fundamental processes and practices that you really need to apply to get the maximum results from the platform. One's going to be understanding ad rank. The other is going to be increasing quality scores and other basic fundamentals like that. I'll explain that more in depth. I know it's really simplified to say, make quality score better, but there's a lot of things that go into that, and that's what I'm going to go into. So why does this work and why is it important? So Google's notorious for wanting you to maximize the use of the platform to give you the best results. And what I mean by that is if Google allows you to build out an ad better, if it allows you to make things more relevant, make things more structural, it's going to reward you for doing that. It's all based on the premise of relevancy, because at the end of the day, Google's revenue is based on people going to their website. And if you don't give them relevant contextual ads to what they're searching, people are going to stop using Google. And obviously that's going to lose revenue for Google. So the core of how Google works is relevancy, and that's going to be a lot of how it's applied to the ad platform as well. So that'll be a big part of this presentation. But one's going to be leveraging ad rank in conjunction with budget. The next is going to be avoiding common low quality store mistakes. The next is going to be making sure that your entire account and campaigns are highly relevant between full circle, everything that needs to happen within there, which is going to be the campaigns, the landing pages, the text that's using the ads, the keywords you're targeting, and so on. So jumping into that solution, so low click-through rates. Low click-through rates is one of the easiest telling signs to know if you're going to have a lower quality score, because if people are seeing your ad and it's being targeted for the right contextual keyword targeting and it has low click-through rate, there's going to be something wrong, right? Either the ad copy and your ads suck and people aren't going to want to read it and click through the website. You're targeting the wrong traffic, so the ads you're showing to that traffic is incorrect and not relevant. Or it could be even full circle between the targeting, the landing page, and the actual ads, and it just doesn't connect the dots. And if you have a low click-through rate, Google's definitely going to punish you for that, because they want people who are going to tailor the ads to make them interactive and make people want to click on them, and they reward you for that. So I'll say that a lot during this presentation. They're going to reward you for that, because all of this that we're doing and all the effort that we're putting behind this is on the premise that we're doing it because Google will either give us lower CPMs, lower cost per clicks, cheaper traffic costs, and that's obviously going to bring down cost per conversion. It's going to bring down cost per acquisition. Depends what you're doing, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about costing less to make you more money, and that's the simple premise of this one. So one's going to be low relevance of keywords. So when it comes to segmenting keywords, in the ideal world, you would have very articulate keywords in every single ad group that's contextual to the ads and the keywords that are being shown. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're working with a pharmaceutical company, right? In the broad sense, you could be targeting, supplements for my body to make me feel good, right? And there's going to be tons and ton of categories between that you can show ads for and target for. And then you can get very granular. Maybe you're going to go after people who want some kind of cognitive enhancement, supplement, some kind of brain supplement. And if you target that and have ads for that, specifically for that, in its own ad group, it's going to be significantly more relevant than it would be on that broader sense. And there are ways to scale out into broader traffic, like I mentioned before. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to get as granular as possible, because if you can get granular and segment, I know it takes a lot of work, but it is worth it. There's going to be a fine line. You're not going to want to do that for every keyword, right? They call that SKAGs, single keyword ad groups. I guess in the ideal world, maybe you would do that, but it's pretty much impossible to dedicate the time to that. So you want to find the fine balance to where you can get specific enough to keep everything contextual in one ad group and then move on to the next ad group and keep doing that. So it's only applicable to the product or the service you're selling. Or go big net approach, which I'll talk about later in probably another video. But we always recommend being more specific, because if you're more specific and more controlled, you're going to get the most bang for your buck on Google, and you're generally going to get the best results. So one thing I forgot to mention in here, most of the keyword targeting that we use is going to be phrase match. Phrase match allows you to really hyper target. It's not obviously as hyper targeted as exact match, but it is going to allow you to make sure you're only getting people who are searching that phrase or keywords around that phrase. I like that control. You can go broad match and go heavier on the negative keyword side, but a lot of the times in more general industries, you're going to get a lot of poor traffic. It's going to cost you. So I'd always recommend getting a select list of keywords you want to go after that you feel that are going to convert and that are high intent for your business or service, and then target those first. If those work, you're going to want to go colder and colder and colder and scale out, right? But you're not going to want to scale out until you first know that the highest intent keywords that you can target are going to convert, because it's just how marketing works. You want to go after the lowest hanging fruit first. moving on. Low relevance and poor quality score when it comes to the landing page. A lot of people don't think about this. It is a simple concept, but you need the landing page to also match what you're targeting the ad copy to. Because if you don't have that, same thing here, you can get low relevance, low quality score. It's going to charge you more. So, like I said before, ideal world, you have a independent landing page per keyword targeted and ad copy that's in that keyword targeting. Not reasonable, right? So same thing. If you're going to be able to break down the amount of ad groups you can have for your business, let's say your e-com store and you have 6 different categories of products that are all within the same realm, you're going to want to make sure to use a landing page relevant to those categories for each category, and not just send them to like the home page, because if you send them to the home page, it's going to be general, it's going to be broad. You're going to want to make sure it's very close to the actual traffic you're targeting, and that's going to help, 1, your CRO, it's going to help actually convert the traffic, and then 2, it's going to help with the data feedback to Google to make sure you don't have any relevance issues and low quality score. So moving on from there, low relevance to ad text to ad group. So we talked about this a little bit. There's going to be, most people are familiar with Google Ads. I'll break it down a little simpler. In ad groups, you're going to have the ads that are dedicated to the targeting. In most cases, we recommend testing out 2, if not 3 at minimum, so you can get split testing, see what type of ad copy works best. But same thing, you want to make sure the ad copy, headline 1's always going to mention something tailored around the keyword you're targeting. The rest of the headlines and descriptions are going to be benefits and information about the product and call to actions. And then that's all going to line up with the actual information on the landing page you're sending it to and the keywords being targeted. So very important. That's pretty much the third set, first full circle of what you're doing, is making sure the landing page, the ad copy, and the targets, keywords you're targeting are all basically congruent and doing the same thing. One thing that you want to take into account as well is Google bases a significant amount what's being ran and how it's going to run your campaigns off of historical data. And that everything's based off the algorithm nowadays on most platforms. So if you have poor historical performance of an account or even a campaign more specifically, it's usually going to make the campaign go a little more haywire. It's not going to be as consistent. So if you have a trash campaign and it's doing really, really bad, in most cases, you're not going to want to try to retrofit that and build it the right way. I'd recommend pausing that and building a new campaign the right way, because it's going to base off of the past traffic. If it thinks that your traffic's not converting, Google's going to keep de-incentivizing you and charging you more. So highly recommend, if you are going to do this properly, split it into new campaigns, let those new campaigns do the right thing, let it get the right data, and those are going to scale substantially higher and then give you a lot more consistency too. So last thing is going to be bottlenecks in the sales process. So that can be a couple things. One's going to be being able to allocate more budget to campaigns that are working. I know most people are willing to spend more money if they're making money. So always recommend, if you have a low impression share, if you see that your ad and campaign is limited by budget or any indicator that you can spend more, but you're doing really well, always recommend dumping more money on that. Be careful. We're generally going to do that in increments. I think the last slide is going to be about that. For example, we mentioned the bottom 10 to 15% at a time. If your campaign's absolutely killing it, sometimes we'll do 25, 50%, even sometimes 100% budget, increases. What I mean by that is if your campaign's already spending $100, 100% of that's going to be another $100, which will equal $200 per day. So really judge the level of increments of spend increases by how well the campaign's doing. If you see that it's ready to scale, has low impression share, there's a ton of room to increase the budget, and it also has an incredibly high ROI, you're going to be able to increase that at a lot quicker pace. But if you're kind of stuck, you're starting to see better results, you want to increase budget, maybe bring in a little bit more business, we'd really recommend probably doing it in increments of about 10 to 20%, because that way, if you do start seeing the campaigns tank because you give it too much money, and I'll explain that in a second, that concept, you can pull back. So one thing that Google's notorious for doing campaign-wise is if you give it too much money, it's going to go a little crazy and reach for all different types of traffic. In most cases, not as high quality of traffic because it wants to spend your money. And if it does that, a lot of times it's going to bring the overall ROI from the campaign down, not just because you're spending more money and making less money. It's actually going to be less efficient with your past budget as well. So if you do see that and you start seeing the cost per acquisition get higher, you start seeing results get lower, scale back a little bit, pull it down to the last increase that you had, let it stabilize, see how it does, and start working on the other variables around that. Because at the end of the day, if you don't change variables, but you keep trying to scale, it's not going to make any difference, right? You need to have new variables in place to do new tests to increase the results. So highly recommend that. I think that's going to be the last slide on this one. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. We'd love to answer them. Otherwise, looking forward to you watching the next video. Thanks.